Martin, thanks for your time. Deadly combination of a bad goal given away in the first half and a failure to score through 90 minutes.
For the second time in a week.
Where
we've handed the opposition a goal and not found the wherewithal despite having a lot of the play, and that's the encouraging side of it. Both at Bromley and here we played as if we built on the Wilson win, but without finding the back of the net, and in the end that, as you say, it's a very difficult combination to deal with, not scoring and conceding a very soft goal, and both the goals at Bromley and today were soft ones.
The failure to score is not a problem that has given us problems, about the repeat, through the season, but the giving bad goals away probably has been.
Yeah, and it's a ruthless league. If you do make mistakes, the teams that we've lost to are the ones who generally don't make fewer mistakes. I think there have been some very good examples in the league of sides that, like Boreham Wood, Bromley, Bromley in the end just got the goal and sat on it for a long time in the game, certainly the whole of the second half. And the mistakes, unless you're scoring freely, you can get away with the odd mistake if you're finding the back of the net. I know people will point to the departure of Campbell, but he'd had quite a lean spell going into the decision over the past few days for the club to decide, and I hope it's a good move for both parties. I wish Tavon all the very best. He's been a joy to work with. He had great ambition to go back into the Football League, which he made clear. And hopefully the amount of money the club negotiated will benefit us all in the long run, because it is a business and sometimes these decisions have to be taken, whatever the coaching staff think. I respect the right for the club to decide to cash in on the transfer market, and as I say, I respect Tavon's ambition and good luck to him.
Yeah, all Woking supporters would love to know how much the club is getting from Tav Campbell. You're not going to tell us, obviously.
I don't know.
Okay.
Truthfully, David, I don't know. I must say, I put in a little input into when it was clear that something was going to be done, but I don't know what they agreed with in the end. But for a player who cost nothing, it will represent a significant profit. But I know what you're going to say. If we don't score any more goals. But it's a collective thing, goal scoring for the team, and I think that's what we've been talking about after the game. Sharing the responsibility isn't always about the strikers. There were a lot of balls put into the penalty area today, and it should not just be Innie or Nicky Kabamba when he came on. It shouldn't just be them trying to get on the end of it, and we've got to try and work on that and maybe shape the play a little bit differently, because people will be putting two and two together. Campbell goes, Woking don't score in the two games, but I think they'll get the wrong answer. I think we'll come up with something and hopefully maybe another player, maybe just a different way of playing.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. You're right. I was sat in the corner second half, so there was loads and loads of crosses came in from Jams Loza mainly, and Josh when he came on as well. But they weren't particularly great crosses, if I'm being brutally honest.
No, I mean,
and there weren't massively brilliant efforts to get on the end of them.
I have to say, when you're down to 10 men, and it's not easy, of course, but what you do is you just defend. So you've got everybody back to defend, and credit to Yeovil. I think they're a team we played 3 times and lost 3 times to. Their work rate is excellent. Their commitment is excellent. But we had a poor day with the delivery. Tyree Johnson, who's a very good player, just had one of those off days today, and it just didn't click with anybody else. But there's got to be other ways to score goals just than getting wide and crossing, and we didn't quite find the way. We haven't got many goals from midfield players except for Max Kretschmar, and we haven't mentioned that, losing Max as well as Tavon. Max will be out for a couple more weeks, I think, so that has reduced our capacity in 2 fell swoops, really.
Yes, George Oakley, what's the sort of possibility of him coming back down to?
I'm the wrong person. Christian Jolly is the one who has the answer to this, but what I would say is we would love to get George back as soon as possible. He's ahead of schedule. He's been excellent in training. Christian's worked him really hard in his rehab. He's had great care and attention, and he will be back sooner rather than later, and that of course is another thing to look forward to. He'd love to play. He was yesterday. We were saying, "Well, come on, George, come on the bench," and Christian going, "No." But he's not far away, and that would help, of course.
Good. 2 substitutions at half time. That's a sort of move where the manager is considered to be either very positive and very forceful or desperate when you make those types of swaps. Is either of those correct?
I think positive, certainly not desperate. Joe McNerney had been booked, and that we were concerned that he might get a second yellow card, so that was a change made on that particular basis, and to have Josh Casey back again after his illness was good, and he fitted in very well in a slightly different role, or a role we've seen him before. And then we went to a back 4 later on, and I think Taryn has been very unlucky to be left out today, really. I mean, he's played pretty well in the last two games in which we've played well. But I think it was the chance to say to him, look, just prove to us that you shouldn't have been left out. And he got on the ball, and you know, he's an eye-catching player, and he's an important part of the squad. So it wasn't a desperate move. We just felt that we needed to protect Joe, and we hadn't, I don't think, played maybe Anderson, Ince and Sol in the same midfield in a National League game. Maybe we had someone who tell me if I'm wrong, but we hoped. We worked on that in training this week, but it hadn't had much training because of course the game's coming thick and fast, but it didn't quite pan out, so you know, Taryn got his chance again.
Yeah. Thinking back to quite some while ago at the start of the season, or even before the start of the season, I can remember very clearly just saying in one of these interviews that once Jams and Tyree were both fit, they would both start. And I could be proved wrong here, but I suspect that's the first time it's actually happened today.
Well, Jams has been injured quite a lot, and it's been one of those injuries that he can train, sort of get on the bench for a game maybe, and then something just triggers it off again. He's been outstanding in training. We've had a lot of time to train prior to the Wheelstone game. We haven't played for a long time, and he's used that time to good effect. And Tyreek is definitely a player. You know, they both played in the Premier League, so you know that comes with a certain amount of status. But they have to earn their place in the side like everybody else. And they say Tyreek's been playing very well, but just today was a little off with the radar, and you know, he'll come again. And Jamar hopefully will find a consistent run of form. We need that because obviously we need to find a way to open up defences, and he's got individual ability. Tyreek's got great pace and thrust down the left-hand side, and is a great setter-up of chances, and also hasn't done it, I don't think, this season, but he has got a goal in him. Remember his first spell here, he scored a couple of great goals. So.
Yes, absolutely. Well, just lastly, briefly looking ahead to next weekend, Altrincham lost very badly today, so they, of course, will be under pressure to come back from that. And so both teams are in a similar position, really. Yeah,
we've got the Surrey Senior Cup on Tuesday, which... because of the nature of the registration of players and things like that, I'm sure we'll play a strongish side. The ones probably didn't start today will probably give 90 minutes. So, and of course, Louis Annesley was suspended today, so it would be good to have him back. We've got a wider group of players available for this coming week, and I'm sure in the end we'll go to Altrincham, as we always do, with a smile on our face, and as Douse has always been, to try and win every game that we play. Unfortunately, the last two have gone slightly awry, but you know, it's a funny way. Sometimes you win and you don't play particularly well, and as a coach you go away thinking, well, it's okay, we've won. And other times you lose and you think, well, we've put a lot into it. Certainly that was the feeling at Bromley, maybe because we did have like 15 minutes or a bit more against 10 men. There's a sense of greater disappointment, but that, if you look at the way football is, it very rarely leads to a collapse, a sending off, and we played pretty well when Louis was sent off at Bromley, so Yeovil dug in and saw it out. Yeah, well, let's hope that there's lots of smiling, woking faces at the end of the game at Altrincham next week. Thanks very much for coming out and talking to us. Pleasure, David.